In this video, we're going to talk about the signs and symptoms of burnout so that you can understand if you are actually burnt out or maybe just run down. And I'm also going to highlight where I think burnout gets misdiagnosed or undiagnosed too often. So starting with the burnout gray zone, you may be burnt out if you feel like there's not enough hours in the day, if you're having trouble sleeping sometimes, if you feel like you don't have time to commit to your partner or to your dating life, and if you generally just feel like you could use a break. This is the gray zone. You may be burnt out, you may just need a small break or a little bit of concentrated recovery. Then in the burnout red zone, that's when we're going to see things like chronic sleep problems. So weeks on end of not being able to fall asleep or waking up too early or waking up in the night, insomnia, however you want to categorize it. You might also have physical symptoms when you're burnt out. So headaches that you didn't really have before, maybe skin issues, maybe digestion issues. Also, more feelings of undesirable mood states. So the anxiety, the overwhelm, the awareness that you are feeling chronically stressed. If you're in the position of being a team leader or an entrepreneur, you might have this thought loop that you could drop a ball at any moment, that things are getting missed, that maybe your team is feeling a little bit scattered because you're not able to show up for them in the way that you want to. You might also be in this definitely burnt out category if you're relying on substances to actually get you through the day. Something above and beyond caffeine could be a bit of a red flag that your body just isn't able to handle the amount of stress that it's under, and therefore you're burnt out. In a clinical setting, when you're talking to a practitioner about burnout, often they really want to know about your motivation to work and your efficiency at work. And this is the thing where I think people get put out of the burnout category when they actually are in the burnout category, especially, like I said, in the case of entrepreneurs or CEOs. So you can love your job, you can want to do all of the projects ahead of you and still be completely burnt out. But a doctor might take you out of this category because you still have the motivation to work and maybe you're still even efficient at work, but it doesn't mean that your body is handling it well. So that's a little nuance that I really want to point out so that people don't gaslight themselves that they're not burnt out when they clearly are. So moving on, when we are burnt out, which maybe you've put yourself in this category, no matter where on the spectrum you are, you might just need a break or some recovery tools. What do we do? Within my coaching practice and my burnout recovery program, I created something called the Exhaustion Trifecta. So the Exhaustion Trifecta of burnout is looking at first, poor sleep, second, physical symptoms, and third, emotional, undesirable mood states. Like I said, the anxiety, the depression, the overwhelm, and the stress. Starting with sleep, it is incredibly important that we start here because if sleep isn't optimized to the best of our actual capability, then it's really hard for anything else in the body to recover. It's hard for the immune system to function, it's hard for the brain to function, decision-making, focus, everything else we want to do, the healthy food habits that we want to have, the workout regime that we want to have is going to rely on actually getting good sleep in order for those other habits to serve our body best. And I have a degree in human nutritional sciences, and I used to think that nutrition was the end-all, be-all, base of all of our cells and everything until I went into sleep research, and I spent many, many hours learning about sleep, and now I can confidently say that sleep has to be foundational. So when it comes to optimizing sleep, I'm going to skip the obvious stuff like sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night, although I will say if you think you're the person that can sleep 4 to 5 hours, you're probably wrong because statistically the amount of people that can and do that for their whole life without any health implications is very, very, very low. You're welcome to challenge me on it, but if you think you can, you probably most likely can't. And one fact that I will say about sleep here is that after 5 nights of getting less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep, so Sunday through Thursday, by that 6th day or Friday morning, we are operating the same as if we hadn't slept for 24 hours. So just 1 week of technical sleep deprivation equals the brain and decision-making skills of someone who hasn't slept for an entire day. That should be enough to show you how important it is to try and increase your hours in bed and hours of sleep if you aren't already in bed and sleeping for 8 to 9 hours. However, I also understand that some people literally cannot be in bed any more hours than they are. And I want to honor that you have a very full schedule, and if that's your reality, we still want to be able to work with that. So if you absolutely can't be in bed any more hours than you already are, then you're going to need to focus on optimizing your sleep environment. One thing you can do to help you fall asleep quicker is actually turn down the temperature in your room or in your space, because our body needs to drop in temperature in order to fall asleep. And this naturally happens, but if you can help your body cool down more quickly, definitely not sleeping really hot in a hot space, this is going to help you sleep better. I have an entire 1.5 hour lecture on sleep optimization in my program, so I'm not going to go entirely into it. But the second tip that I will say is that if you're someone who lays down and your mind is racing and all of a sudden you're remembering all the things you didn't do, or you're thinking about all the things you need to do tomorrow, you need to start by trying to slow down your mind. And I know you already know that meditation is good for you, but maybe you haven't fully given it a go yet. So I would definitely recommend, statistically, scientifically, this is really what's actually going to help. There are so many good free meditation apps. I love Insight Timer. Headspace is a really common one. The Calm app is a common one. And you can just choose something that feels good to you, whether it is just sleep meditation music or a guided meditation for sleep. Yoga Nidra is a common one as well. Try listening to those. Try and keep your mind focused on your breath and the voice, and it will help you slowly train your nervous system to relax. It might not work the first night. You might hear the whole 45-minute meditation and still be awake, but as you do it over and over and you invite your body consciously into relaxation, then these meditations are going to help send you into sleep so you can optimize the amount of time that you're in bed without laying awake, distracted by your thoughts for 30, 45 an hour or longer. The second thing to consider when trying to manage and overcome burnout while staying in your job is regulating your nervous system. You've probably heard people sharing that in our modern day society, we are often operating as if we are in a fight or flight mode. The saying often goes that we act as if there's a tiger that's attacking us, but there are no tigers anymore, and instead the tigers are our phones or our screens or our email inbox or our notifications or whatever. So that's all great and it conceptually makes sense, but what's actually happening in the body is your nervous system is having a reaction to what it feels is a stressor in your environment. So if the email notification sound is a stressor to your nervous system, even though maybe to your conscious mind it's not, maybe it is, your body is going to have a hormonal and chemical reaction releasing cortisol or adrenaline, which affects other hormones like your sleep hormones, and that can be happening over and over and over again all day long. And of course, because you work in a stressful, high-paced environment, your body is just trying to adapt in the best way it knows how. But the survival mechanism isn't really helping because it's kind of making our nervous system shot and sending us into a lot of anxiety and overwhelm and stress, and it's hard to calm down at night. The quickest way to temporarily relax the nervous system is going to be simply by breathing. Again, I know that this is something you've probably heard, but I just want to highlight that when we are looking at statistics and the scientific data, it is this easy stuff that we just don't do. We haven't been taught how to breathe. We haven't been taught about sleep hygiene. We haven't been taught about our nervous system, unfortunately. And so we are just now a product of our conditioning and our environment, and our nervous system is controlling us instead of us being in control of the nervous system. So for someone who is working in a fast-paced environment, like I said, you might have the experience where you really get into work and you skip meals, you don't go to the bathroom when you want to, you don't drink water when you want to, you overwork, and you know that you're doing it, but you feel so glued to your computer or your task that you can't imagine walking away because something in your body is telling you like, no, I am fighting right now. I am in a survival mode, and so these other things aren't important. And it's up to you to break that pattern by deciding, I'm going to stop and breathe. I'm going to stop and go get water. I'm going to stop and use the washroom. And the more that you honor what your body is asking you for in the moment, the more that the body will allow itself to trust that nothing bad is going to happen when you go and take that nervous system regulating action. The nervous system work can also go a lot deeper. If you're someone that identifies and knows that you're a high achiever, that you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and that sort of behavior, while it gets you wins, also causes debilitating anxiety or self-stress or any undesirable mood state, we can go much deeper into the nervous system to see where those patterns are, where those systems are just on loop, and how we can sort of untangle that stress and bring peace and calmness and focus and groundedness into how you operate. Because we all have that capability of being someone who makes grounded decisions, who is focused, who is calm, who is clear. It can just often feel like that part is really hard to access, and that part of our experience is far and few between, when it doesn't have to be that way when we actually start to work with our nervous system and create that experience more often. Again, this is something I go so deep in with my clients, but I wanted to keep this video short, and the purpose of this video is so you can diagnose yourself with burnout, basically, so that you can validate that you probably do need to take some action. And if this still feels a little too vague, you can also use the Oldenburg Burnout Inventory Scoring Quiz, which I'll link below in the description. It's 16 questions that will also allow you to rate your burnout on a scale that makes it easy to understand and clearly defines yes or no. But regardless, if you're feeling burnt out, I think it's worth taking action and getting curious about what you need in order to feel better so that you can keep showing up for your work and for your career. I'm going to be putting up a couple more videos in this burnout series, so you'll see a playlist available for you, and in those I want to talk about more tips for managing burnout. I want to talk about the importance of boundaries and communication and the myth of work-life balance. But if you have any other questions, please leave them below and I'm happy to go into detail, because when we can learn our own stress management and emotional intelligence, then we have a bigger capacity to handle the same amount of stress. So in my burnout teaching, it's never about quitting your job. It's just about learning how to manage the stress better, whether it be within your own body or making a change, delegating, etc. Let me know what questions you have and we'll chat soon.